Good morning, everybody. Good morning. This is Sarah, and I'm Miss Ruth, and this is our Little Lights room at St. James United Church in Waterdown. So we are welcoming our usual crew. Gray came in again first. He's the speedy guy. And there's Jaden and Ezra and Annie and Elam and Charlotte and Abigail, Lawson and Oliver. That's our usual crew. And then Owen and Grace and Noah and Ashley and Chloe and Coco and Ben, and a lot of the folks from our messy church have arrived too. So welcome, everybody. It's a nice, almost summery day. We're not at summer yet, but it's a beautiful day. So today we're going to be talking about transformation. Transformation is change. We got one change up here. You see her hairstyle. It's got a beautiful bandana on it, and we'll be using that for something to show change today. And change is also about our story. We're going to start with let us love. So let us love one another. One that you know. There you go. God's word says let us love one another. Here we go.
God's word says let us love one another. God's word says let us love one another. God's word says let us love one another. Let us love one another. Hold hands together now. Swing your arms back and forth. Lift your arms so high now. Everybody sing. God's word says let us love one another. God's word says let us love one another. God's word says let us love one another. Let us love one another. Hold hands together now. Swing your arms back and forth. Lift your arms up high now. Everybody sing. God's word says let us love one another. God's word says let us love one another. God's word says let us love one another. Let us love one another.
Great. Good job, Sarah. Okay. So we're talking about transformation, and we were looking at some tadpoles. I know my granddaughter Claire has tadpoles. So tadpoles come from a little jelly egg, and they turn into that little squirmy thing called a tadpole, and then that turns into a leaping frog, leaping lizards. It turns into a frog, and it's a huge transformation. And we see things right now with our plants outside. Did you see the seeds we planted? You did. They were tiny, tiny little seeds, and already we have little plants growing that are about, probably up to your elbow right now. So pretty cool, and they're going to get bigger and bigger. So that's transformation. We're going to hear a story about how a life was transformed, a very famous biblical character you're going to meet today. Okay. Put Sarah back here. She can listen to the story. Okay. Okay. So this man's name was Saul. And Saul was a early Jewish person in the Bible, and he was with the Jewish people who did not like what was happening with the story of Jesus and Jesus' life, and he had been persecuting the followers of Jesus, the disciples. He'd been even killing some people that were following Jesus and putting them in prison, and he got to the high people in the church, and he asked permission for a letter that any of the disciples or the followers of Jesus, that he could take them right into prison when he got to Damascus. So he was on his way to Damascus from Jerusalem. And he was with some friends. They were following along too. And all of a sudden, a light came down, and it beamed right at him, at Saul, and it said, "Why are you persecuting me?" And he says, "Lord, who's speaking?" And he says, "It's I, Jesus, and you are persecuting, you're hurting me, you're hurting my people. And Saul fell down and he became blind. He couldn't see. So his followers at that time, they had to help him get up and take him on his way to Damascus. And you can see his eyes are closed and he can't see. And on the way to Damascus, it took him a few days, and he went right into a room, and he stayed in the room, and he had a dream. And the dream told him that someone was going to be visiting him, a disciple of Jesus, and that he would lay his hands on him and that he would regain his sight. Well, meanwhile, in Damascus, one of the disciples, one of the friends of Jesus, had a vision too, like an angelic vision, and it told Ananias that he had to go and see this terrible man. Everyone knew about Saul, that he'd been brutal. And they knew that he had letters that he could imprison the disciples and the followers of Jesus. And Ananias was taken aback in this vision. He didn't want to go. It's like asking you to go visit your bully and make friends with him. And it was just something that people would scoff at. But this came from God, and Ananias did do what he was told. So he went, and they told an exact place in Damascus. He was to go to a place on Straight Street, and there he would find Saul. So he put his hands on Saul like that, and Saul it was like scales that fell off his eyes, and he was no longer blind, that he could see. And then Ananias was able to tell him about Jesus, and Saul became a follower of Jesus. He became one of the most important missionaries in the New Testament, in the Bible. And he told crowds and crowds of people about Jesus, that Jesus is the Son of God. And this is the transformation that came over him. So he also changed his name from Saul to Paul. So you'll know that name more in the book of Acts, when his name did change. So the name Saul was a Hebrew name, and he took on the name Paul, which is the Latin name for his name. So it's something like in Canada, we know French and English, like Stephen is English and Etienne is the French. So the same thing. Saul was the Hebrew name and Paul was the Latin name, and he wanted to be closer to many cultures and not just have like the Jewish Hebrew name. So that's why he took on the name Paul. And they say his transformation was immediate. It wasn't like a tadpole or a frog that takes many, many days to change. His transformation was immediate. He had actually been 3 days without eating or drinking. He got some food, and he went with Ananias, spoke with other disciples, and he became one of the greatest leaders in the Christian church. So this was the transformation that came over him, and he changed many, many people. So here's one of the verses today is, let us love one another, from 1 John 4:7. And on the other side, I've got God's love for us is great. So even someone as bad as Saul was, that Jesus came down and gave him the message that he was forgiven and that he could start a new life. So that's from 1 John 3, verse 1. God's love for us is great. Okay. So we're going to go over to the craft table now. And I wanted to have us make actually a box that has to do with prayer, because Ananias prayed over Saul, who became Paul. And so it would be good for us to have a little box. So I just took a box like this, and I drew around it with a marker, so I made it a little bit bigger than the box. And then I cut that out like this. And then that can be wrapped around the box and taped. And so this was just some used paper that had come off another gift, and it was still good enough. So I thought, let's put it on here. Okay. So it's also a good skill to learn how to do corners and how to fold up and flip over and make a nice package like this. So we fold it in, down, up, and tape. So this then can become your prayer box. So inside of here, we can write things that we would pray about quite often. So I thought this one, Jesus, help me to be patient. So help me to wait for things. When I pray for things, it's not going to happen immediately. It can take time. So help me to be patient could go into my prayer box. This one is, Jesus, help me to take turns and share. So if we've got brothers and sisters at home, sometimes we want the same toy or the same snack, but we need to remember that we do need to share. And this one is, Jesus, help me to think of others. So help me to think outside of my family and how I can help other people. I know in your own families you can help with, doing the dishes or setting the table or picking up sticks in the yard or maybe helping pull weeds in the garden. And just saying hello to people as they pass by is helpful, just to be friendly and to show your love. So these are kinds of things that you could put inside your prayer box, and you can make other ones up too, because prayer is super important. Another idea I thought would be, if you've got some blocks, you could make a road to Damascus out of blocks today. So you could make, if you had even train tracks, you could use it as a road to get to Damascus. And we could pretend that this is where the end point was. And you can have people along the road, and the conversion of Paul, and when he gets there, that he becomes, that he talks to all the other disciples and learns about Jesus, that Jesus is the Son of God, and his life was transformed, and he transformed other lives as well. I did want to share a little bit from my Bible about what Jesus did say in this story, his words. So when the light came down and struck Saul, it says here in Acts 9, verse 5, I am Jesus whom you are persecuting. Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. And I found it very interesting that a direction was given to go to a particular house in a particular street. So in the vision, the Lord called him in a vision, Ananias. Yes, Lord, he answered. And the Lord told him to go to the house of Judas on Straight Street and ask for a man from Tarsus named Saul, for he is praying. And in a vision, he has seen a man named Ananias come and place his hands on him to restore his sight. And Ananias wasn't super happy about going and doing this. It was a difficult task, but when God told him to do it in his vision, he did. And the Lord said to Ananias, go. This man, Paul, or who was Saul, is my chosen instrument to carry my name before the Gentiles. And he is such a large figure in the New Testament. Okay. So today I was going to end with this little prayer book for boys and girls that I was given way back in the 1950s. It's well used, and it's signed by my Sunday school teacher, and it's about gentle Jesus. So, gentle Jesus, meek and mild, look upon a little child. Make me gentle as thou art. Come and live within my heart. Take my childish hand in thine. Guide these little feet of mine. So shall all my happy days sing their pleasant song of praise, and the world shall always be Christ the Holy Child in me. So take that message with you this week. Have a wonderful week, and let the love of Jesus shine in your lives every day. That's it from Miss Ruth for this week, and see you next Sunday. Bye for now.